Hello, and welcome to the Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
I'm all for protecting my most valuable asset, my creative energy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, by offloading the admin that drains it. And that's why we love Rounded, because it really does take away so much of the money admin that I used to do with a spreadsheet and a box of receipts. How about you?
Yeah, me too. I think I would get stressed about finances, and I love the fact that it's all taken care of and it's all there for me. And I think it frees up my brain really to do all the creative work, which is writing. That's what I love.
Absolutely. And if you're a Rachel's List member, you get 20% off an annual subscription at Rounded. So check out the show notes for more about that.
Fantastic.
So Lynne, as you know, I am a big Canva user. I still hire designers for the big stuff, but for day-to-day assets, I would be lost without Canva. So I'm very much looking forward to our guest today, who actually works there. I have many burning questions.
I bet you do. There's so many things. And of course, like Canva keeps bringing out more and more exciting things. So even if you think you know what you're doing, there's so much more exciting stuff you don't think you've really touched.
Yes.
So, and it's such an interesting company too. And our guest today has done some really cool things there, tracking trends, embracing the next technology, and there's so much coming. So how about you introduce Maria and we'll get her into the hot seat?
Yes, love to. So Maria Izvestkina is a multidisciplinary creative leader with a global perspective. She leads video and social media content at Canva, bridging creativity, culture, and technology to shape how millions of people tell stories online. What a cool job. Oh my gosh. She pioneered Canva's first ever design trends report, setting a new standard for trend forecasting by merging behavioral and visual analysis with AI-driven personalization. She's been nominated for the Women Leading Tech Award for contributions to innovation in the creative and technology space. And she is passionate about helping creatives navigate the evolving digital landscape and advocating for a future where human creativity thrives alongside AI. She also writes about creativity, play, and trends on her Substack Play In. Welcome, Maria. Great to have you here.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You have such an interesting job. It's one of the best job titles I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background and your role at Canva today.
Sure. I'm a designer by trade, but my path has been anything but linear when it comes to career. I started in graphic design, explored fashion as well, and eventually found myself drawn to visual communication in sort of broader space. And today at Canva, as you mentioned, lead video and social media content within the content team. My role sits sort of at intersection of creativity and culture and technology. And a lot of my work is all about empowering people to tell their stories online, analyzing how visual trends evolve and how we can help millions of creators express themselves in a more imaginative way. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
That's exciting.
Wow. Was that role always there, or was it kind of created for you, or is it a newish thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't there. It's sort of evolved into based on the need and based obviously where social media is going and how important it is. And I've had a couple of roles in Canva before that, but they were always focused on trends specifically, so sort of injecting more of a like trend analysis and findings knowledge into what we put out there. So it sort of kind of merged these two strengths I had, and now I'm in social media space.
Wow. Let's talk a bit about that trend spotting stuff that you're passionate about. How do you keep track of what's on the cutting edge? Like, do you use like listening tools or other strategies, or are you constantly just looking and kind of checking out what's going on in the space?
Yeah, it wasn't always like that, but I think after doing it for a few years, I developed a few strategies that really worked for me. And yeah, definitely listening tools are so powerful. But I think the biggest thing is consistency, because trend spotting won't really take you far if it's about chasing the viral moments, just because they're so fleeting. So it's about having a regular practice of observing what's happening in culture, in your industry, or whatever corner of the internet you might be interested in. When you do that week after week for a year, let's say, you suddenly now have a year of historical context. And that's when patterns start to reveal themselves, and you see how things evolve, rather than just what's happening today. Which, yeah, so I think kind of understanding that really unlocked that for me, like in the early days. And another thing I rely on heavily is documentation, recording what I notice, even if it's a small thing, but like just kind of I have a feeling about it. I think trusting your intuition as well, setting aside time, weekly or however works for you, to sort of capture those observations, almost like a building personal archive. I think that's really helpful. And over time, that archive becomes a really, really powerful lens for your work. It helps you understand the shifts that are happening in your industry, in your space, in visual communication. And it allows you to make grounded predictions about what might come next.
That's so interesting. It's
Fascinating.
so true, because I work a lot in interiors and architecture, and there's obviously trends, but they are
Mm.
slow. But the more you're in it, you see them coming and going. You sort of see something on the
Yeah.
horizon, and then it gets closer and closer until it's everywhere, and then you see it trailing off again. It's quite amazing. Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, absolutely.
And I noticed one of the things you're really strong about is that you're such an advocate for creativity and living a creative life. We love to hear that. So, what does that mean for you in practice?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm still discovering what it means every day, mostly because of having, obviously working in tech, it's such a fast space, and
Yeah.
it's demanding, it's fast, it's exciting, it's ever changing. So I'm in the process of discovering what it means for me and living a creative life. I feel like what I'm discovering is about prioritizing joy and making things just for fun, which I guess we do a lot like kids. So it's sort of like I'm trying to analyze these parallels to what we do in our childhood from what we do sort of now, and like how we can learn from that time potentially. I try to normalize play as something that deserves space in my week, not something that I have to like earn or make special time for once in a blue moon. Doing that, I try to block out playtime in my calendar. Like on Sundays, I have my playtime, and I might do some anything, and maybe some junk journaling, or like painting while listening to podcasts, or just mixing colors and shapes with like no intention. Not to create anything extraordinary or share it online. Like that's not the point at all. It's really about just giving myself like a permission to explore and experience joy, because I feel like that's where ideas really come from.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm exploring.
Wow. You mentioned something about children and how children play. Do you think that, we all did that once and then we sort of lost it as we get older, and that's something worth discovering or rediscovering?
Yeah, I sort of read this interesting thing about like making a list of things that had a very strong influence on you between like ages, I think, 0 to 14 or something.
Mhm.
And they don't have to be profound things, they could be very silly things. But I feel like, yeah, analyzing what is it that was sparking your imagination when you were little,
Mm.
when, there was no responsibilities, there was no goals, like there was no trying to be something. That feels like a very core ideas around you and your creativity and when you're coming from. And if we can sort of look back and rediscover some of this and analyze why I was so into this thing, why it was bringing me so much joy, maybe that actually can unlock your creativity in present
Mm.
day. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so I'm
Mm.
trying to experiment with that a bit more.
That's so
Interesting.
fun.
Well, the big elephant in the room, obviously, for everybody in the creative space is AI.
Yes.
How did that coming along impact you as a designer, and what are you seeing happening from a design perspective?
Mm, mm. Yeah, it is a massive disruptor for all
Mm.
of us, and including myself, and especially in the industry I'm in. What I'm seeing this year particularly, it's a real shift in the creative world because we sort of started with a lot of fear, which is understandable, and uncertainty. But I feel like now creatives and professionals are starting to embrace AI in a much more open and experimental way, which I think it's great and like makes me excited. People are realizing that if you use AI to expand your thinking rather than replace it, it becomes this sort of incredible creative partner. You hear people say that, and a space where you can explore ideas further. One thing I also love seeing is creatives and professionals building very specific niche workflows, GPTs that match like the exact way they think. So it might not work for anyone else, but this is just really specific type of work they do or the thinking they have to do. And it's so empowering because instead of confronting to the tool, so that's what everyone uses it for, I feel like there's a space to shape the tool around your own creative brain. And that level of personalization is opening up so much creative freedom, like if you allow it to. And I think from design perspective, there's something even more fascinating happening, in my opinion, as AI becomes better at everything, producing high quality outputs, less mistakes. Designers are leaning into the opposite. So we're seeing the return of the human hand and where the flaws and imperfections are actually intentional now and they're used as design elements. And those intentional quirks signal that something was made by human. And it's almost like the more advanced technology become, the more we value the deep human qualities, like making mistakes, and just keep going or trying different things or admitting something or not having all the answers. So to me, that's most exciting part. Sort of AI pushing us to redefine what makes human creativity unique. Like what is actually that we value so much in the way we work.
So
Yeah.
interesting because there is a lot of hype around AI and people,
Mhm.
there's a lot of like strong advocates of it. But I wonder how much of that percolates right down to users, that how much is reality, because I'm always surprised how people use technology. There might be an intention by the designer or the tech people, but people often do something quite unexpected with it. Do you see that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely a mix of hype and reality. Uh, a lot of the hype obviously comes from the extremes because we always like to think in extreme ways.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, there's fear that AI will replace creativity entirely. And then we have marketing as well that makes it sound like AI can magically solve every problem,
Yes.
which is interesting. It's like polar opposite. And AI is disruptive without a doubt, and it will continue to reshape the way we create. But it's like I always bring this example, and it's like it's a bit obvious, but it always works in my mind. If you look back at any innovation in history, humans have always been extraordinary at adapting and figuring out unexpected ways and creative ways to use the tools we're given. Yeah, the moment you give us sort of a new tool, we start bending it towards like our needs, and I think that's our human nature, and the same happening with AI. I think what's surprising, in a lovely way, probably, is the speed. Because if inventions before AI took a bit of time, with AI, people are personalizing tools so quickly and creating really niche workflows so quickly as well. So that's interesting because you're like, wow, I wonder where we're going to be at the end of 2026, and like no one knows. So yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, I agree that what you've just described, how you can create workflows or create tools out of AI that work specifically for you or a specific
Mm.
problem, which you probably couldn't do unless you had a coder or a developer and you had the idea and they sort of nutted it out with you. Now you can just do it in 2 seconds. And that to me is so exciting, just coming up with ways to create things that might work for you or your community. But at the same time, I'm seeing that a trend towards people loving, like you were saying, the handmade stuff. We're seeing
The
so many
analog world.
yes, the analog world. We're seeing so many markets pop up with all handmade stuff in Sydney and Christmas
Mhm.
markets that are full of like artisan type things that you can buy and ceramics and jewelry and all of that. And so it seems like there's really those two extremes happening at the moment, which is quite interesting too.
Yeah, because I guess there's always something on the other side, right? Like there's AI evolution and development, and there always should be something kind of contradicting it, or I guess like on the other side of it.
A
And I think
counterbalance.
Yeah.
exactly counterbalance it. And I think, yeah, like human creativity, and that's what the playing and returning to our childlike minds. I feel like all of that is happening parallel to
Yep.
development of AI. It really makes sense to me.
Yeah.
'Cause it's sort of like, yeah, we're trying to navigate, like, what are we if this thing can do so much?
What can we still do that's
Exactly.
beautiful and important? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so true. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about social media, which is that
Mhm.
space that you're very much in. And so many use it as a strategy to fulfill a business goal and think about it with that lens. But I understand that you see it more as culture.
Mm.
So we've talked a lot about, play but how is that and experimenting and being curious becoming the new currency of online creativity?
I think everything we engage with at scale eventually becomes part of culture, and I think social media is not an exception. I think we're in a moment of really big change as well in social media, also triggered by AI and other factors, but AI is a big one. We're sort of starting to see a clearer divide as well between social spaces that are about business, visibility, and social spaces that are about connection and expression. And so on one side, you have platforms you use intentionally to share your work, show your process, collaborate, put something into the world so people who need you can find you. And using social as strategic lever there, I think is smart and it's much needed because returns could make your career, could be really, really powerful. And on the other side, you have spaces that feel more intimate and it's you and your friends. And I think the divide is healthy. I think like this is a good trajectory, and it gives people agency as well over how they want to show up and interact with it or not. And on play and curiosity, yes, to me they are definitely becoming a currencies, as you said, of online creativity, because relatable experiences that are packaged in a fun feel deeply human. And I think we're going to see audiences respond more and more to work that feels like human, as we said. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't use AI. You definitely should, probably, and it will be helpful. But it means a combination of AI and your innate human qualities, your curiosity, your sense of play, your way of seeing the world is incredibly powerful. And when you bring those together, the work feels personal and intentional. And that's what we're all craving online. And I think the future belongs to creators or solopreneurs or businesses who treat social media like an experience rather than transaction. So not how do I get attention, but how do I invite you into my world? And
Mm.
how do you sort of, why would you come back? And
It's
yeah.
a Yeah, it's a really subtle shift, and when
Mm,
you think about it, there are some people doing it really brilliantly. There's a
mm,
copywriter I follow called Dirty Copy, and
cool.
she did a carousel recently on how to sell an apple or 4 different ways to sell an apple. So each slide was
Yep.
it was just so fun and
Yep.
engaging, and I put it in our big newsletter, the wrap up,
Yes.
because I just thought it was a brilliant way to show off her copywriting skills, but also teach people something and draw
Yeah.
them in with that sense of play and curiosity as well. It was just exactly what we've been
Yeah.
talking about. So it's thinking about things in a different way and how to draw people in. Yeah.
I saw this really interesting project last week that just fully caught my attention for like an hour. It was a branding done for this agency, so branding for a creative agency, and they did it in a form of a game that you can play on your computer,
Mhm.
and it's about it's like a horror game, and it's all about missing your deadline. And you've got some questions, and you're prompted to answer the questions, and your path sort of being shaped that way. And it's about deadline and project management with the most driest thing you can imagine. No offense to everyone, but they made it so engaging and so fun, and it's relatable because you've been in a situation, you've been late, like
Yeah.
and so those relatable, fun executions, I think, will start being more and more noticeable online.
Have you seen the quiz? It's called What's Your Creative Type by Adobe.
Yes, I've seen that one.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
those types of things are really playful and fun, and you can't help but want to do those things and engage with them. Yeah.
So do you have some simple play prompts that you use to get your creative flow going?
I think for someone to start, if you're just starting, there's one that I love to start with, and it's very simple but surprisingly powerful. You set 5 minutes timer and list every activity that makes you lose track of time. You don't edit, don't judge, don't try to make it sound creative or impressive, just list it. And what it does, it helps you to reconnect with things that naturally pull you in and pull you into your flow state that you sort of think but then you never really think about them. So when you list them down, they're sort of all staring at you. And that list often reveals a thread that connects your past joys to your future creative breakthroughs as well. So it's, I guess, speaking back to that childhood play. And once you become aware of that, I think it's much easier to tap back into it with purpose and actually plan to being like, oh, I really enjoy being in nature, and sort of planning things like that. Yeah, and it's definitely one of the core ideas, sort of when it comes to like tapping back into your creativity and unlocking it to then value your work. I think that one is quite powerful, and I usually try to, if I start a new project or something like that, I try to start with that list, and I find it very helpful.
That's fantastic. A lot of this creativity and play, there's a bit about authenticity and showing up. I think, what did you say? Inviting people into your world. So how do you cultivate it, and why do you think it's important? Is it that human connection?
Yeah, I think authenticity as a concept and a word, it's might be an unpopular opinion, but I think it's slightly overrated, actually.
Yes.
At least the version of authenticity we talk about on social media. And maybe because the word has been used so much and it sort of started to lose its meaning. And I also found that, in the last decade, I guess, we've labeled irony and oversharing even as authenticity, when in reality, those things are often performances as well. And it's fine. But for me, real authenticity online is probably much simpler. Being okay, not having all the answers, showing your process instead of only the finished product. We all love to see, behind the scenes, allowing space for mistakes and experimentation, and the parts of the creativity that aren't, finished and polished and presentable. And importantly, you don't have to reveal your whole personal life to be authentic, because I think a lot of people, professionals who maybe don't have a presence online but want to, but they struggle with like how much I want to share, I want boundaries. You absolutely should have boundaries, and you don't have to share everything. But instead of trying to be authentic, I think it's more powerful to focus on providing value. We always respond to value, whether it's learning something, being inspired, being entertained, or feeling comforted. So when you share from that place, your work naturally feels more real. And I feel like that's the world you create, like a world where someone, when they tune in, they feel a sense of comfort or sense of joy. And I think that comes through a lot more easy and powerful, that approach.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think you can get so bogged down in how you're coming across or the types of
Yeah.
assets you're creating in Canva, and you almost can get too serious about it all.
Yep.
And
Yep.
instead of bringing that sort of sense of joy and originality back to your work.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd love to get really drill down a little into Canva, because you must know it back to front. We'd love to know some clever shortcuts or features that people overlook but make designing faster or make your message stronger.
Yeah, there are a few, and some of them are very simple, but they're surprisingly effective. I mean, I really love one of the simple ones. I really love copy style function, when you can copy style of any photo, any background, like any surface basically, on any other page or the rest of your pages with one click. I think that one is really, really good, and just a time saver, and you don't have to think about this. It's like removes the decision making. Yeah, another simple one, but also I use think on the daily is the bulk color change as well. So if you want to change one color, you can then, there's like an option in the color section underneath, like on the bottom, where you can translate that to all
I love
colors
that one
that are the
too.
same. Yeah,
Yep.
it's simple, but then
Yep.
you're like, wow, it's done. I don't have to think about this, especially if it's like a shade of pink that's slightly different from the other shade of pink.
Yep.
It really helps.
Mm.
I would also highly recommend exploring like Magic Design for Video, our new video editing platform, where you can just drop your clips and you get edit recommendations back. I think that's a bit of a
Oh, that
really
sounds good.
really powerful one. Yeah, another slightly niche one, but in the object panel, if you're after some fun and like trendy graphic or motion elements, you can search for Canva graphic trends, all in one word, and you'll see a huge collection of such elements. It's a good one.
Ah.
Okay, cool. What about if you've never used Canva, but you're wanting to dip your toe in? What are the first 3 things you should learn to get sort of the biggest return on your time?
Yeah, good question. I think probably start with templates
Mm.
because also there's just so many templates in Canva, and it's a rabbit hole. And when you open the page, you sort of you'll see few of them. But
Mm.
then if you really start exploring and going into one and then going into recommendations based on that one and really explore the area, you can find such an incredible templates that are exactly what you're after. And I think starting by that, exploring, saving them, starring them, just sort of so you have some point of reference and you can come back to, and they can be your base when you just start.
Mm.
And then obviously from there, I mean, mastering like the basics of editor, like simple things like grouping, aligning, using quick commands, and obviously like online there are so many resources for any quick shortcuts as well on the keyboard. Learning those, I think, really speeds up time. For example, there's one when you edit the video, if you press S, it automatically splits it. So it's just nice and quick and easy, and you can edit the length of the video very easily.
Mhm.
And yeah, brand kits. I think learn how to use brand kits,
Yep.
and I think that's a very, very smart way to create like a system of
Mhm.
templates, and especially for solopreneurs or if you're online. Also because you're online, you want it to be consistent. You want it to have a voice, a visual voice to your content that if someone scrolls, they know exactly that that's you, and you can stop them in the scroll.
Yep.
So people know about brand kits, but they often sort of forget how powerful and easy to use they are. It requires a bit of a setup at the beginning, but then it is quite easy. And once that's done, like half of your work is done because your fonts, your logos, your colors, any visuals, they all exist in this kit. So every time you design, your object panel automatically set to include all of this. So you don't have to think about color, search for them, like it's all there.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, especially if you using Canva for something consistent like this, that's a massive time saver.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you really talked us through a way to build a system, which we like that because, if the system makes it your baseline
Mm.
easier, then you can be creative beyond that, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
just forget all the or like remove all the obstacles to be
Yes.
creative, and yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
I know my biggest mistake in Canva, and I've used it for years, so it's becoming an even more like annoying mistake, is that I didn't set up a proper folder system at the start.
Mm.
So, what would be your advice to someone like me or someone who's coming along and thinks, well, how can I, create something organized from the start?
Yeah. I think that happens to everyone. I think that
Yeah.
happened to me as well before I've started.
Mm.
It's also became super messy very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, look, folders are there for a reason, and like your project sidebar and all your folders and projects in there, it's utilize that to a maximum. And I think in categories, not in perfect folders. So you've got your social, your video, your documents, personal, clients, just so you kind of there's like
Hmm.
a categories that you can think easily in.
Mm.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a folder for each project yet. Firstly, just categories. And then, I mean, yeah, like everything, using consistent naming conventions as well just removes extra clutter from your brain. And I also think, and that's something that I'm now trying to do in my personal Canva, just archiving ruthlessly. Like if something is done, if you know you don't really need to see it anytime soon, just archive it. Like you're not deleting it, but you're just removing it out of your active view.
Yeah, so that means you don't have 20 different versions of your newsletter.
Exactly.
You only have the last one or two, and the rest are there. If ever you want to go back to
Yeah.
October 22,
Yeah.
it's there, but you don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I think just keeping it simple and the filing system that works for you. I think when we think of filing system, we also think of potentially organizing everything like to a T. And sometimes like I find I overcomplicate things and then I can't find anything because the filing system is too niche. So yeah, just keeping it simple, I think helps.
Okay.
You must see some visibility about what templates people use and everything and the sort of things people are doing, because we hear carousels are back in a big way. And are there certain things you find get more engagement on socials, or Canva templates or ideas?
Yeah, I think like formats or templates that getting a lot of engagement on socials now, mostly those that give people a space to like, scroll or explore through and engage more deeply, which is why carousels, because you kind
Yes.
of like you in this little space that you can explore and really dive in, as well as photo dumps, obviously, like such a massive and simple category, but I think it's a massive one. And yeah, any similar formats are very powerful, and they're sort of kind of there at the top always. Value-driven content, I think tips, tutorial, like frameworks, thought pieces, behind the scenes, like anything like that. I think people create now a lot of, so which is why those templates perform really well. Again, depth, learning, value, like all of those things. And yeah, because social media is increasingly crowded space as well. I think, yeah, this engagement over just like passively scrolling by versus engagement, swiping through, saving, reading tend to be rewarded as well by algorithm. So I think people kind of realize that more now. So anything that's doing well in the algorithm ends up doing well, obviously, with templates because people using these templates to feed it back to the algorithm. So yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a lot of extra work, isn't it, to put a carousel together, but you can see that they do really well if they're high value and are teaching people something. So,
Yeah. And once
yeah.
again, like if you set up your brand kit and then you
Yeah.
set up your carousel template with your little logo and your colors, the template is there. And so every week you can just drop your visuals. So it's
Yeah.
a very nice way to reuse the format.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Wow. So let's talk a little bit about your Substack, Play In. So what was the reason that you wanted to start it, and has it done anything, really great for your work or your thought processes or your own creativity?
Yeah. I started it earlier this year. I actually first started this challenge that I did online. I did it for myself first, but then I had few like people from my community or like colleagues join in. So it was like about 25 of us doing this 30 days of play challenge where I would send
Wow.
out play prompts every day. And they're easy. You don't have to be an artist or designer to get it done. I could sort of barrier to entry very low. So I would send them out and then you have a day to fit in this like 15, 20 minutes of this playful activity. And everyone responded to it really well. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought, oh, there's something in it. So playing became this space that's, opposite to deliverables and outcomes. And it's space more where I could think out loud and explore ideas and reconnect with the parts of creativity that are like that feel human. And obviously, I spent a lot of time working in design, in technology, and Substack became a way for me to process everything and what I observe and culture, and turn it into something meaningful and hopefully valuable. I also think writing regularly forces me to sort of slow down and notice because I try to note things like during the week, things that pick my attention. So it's almost like my brain. Like it's a good thing for my brain, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so playing sort of I'm trying to talk about topics that connecting professional work with personal creative practices. And yeah, so sort of questions about taste and how it's formed and why play matters and how to be more creative if your career has nothing to do with creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So interesting. Now, one of the things we ask all our guests about their favorite tools of the trade. So besides Canva, obviously that's
Number one.
that's number one. And that comes back with a lot of our guests. But are there any programs or apps or software that you love and you use as part of your work?
Yeah, there are definitely a few, but I think what comes to mind straight away is probably Notion. I don't know if you use Notion
I
much.
hear about that. Neither of us have dived into Notion, but
it's popular.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Mostly because it also is templated. So there's templates for everything. Like I have Notion for my travel. I have Notion for, my creative projects. I have Notion for my grocery list. So it's very heavily templated. So you can use it for anything, personal life or professional. But also it's quite customizable as well. So you can really adjust your working space to whatever works for you. And yeah, I really enjoy it. And I actually even created my own template there as well, like a digital garden template where you sort of record your findings and things you see, movies you love or articles or things like that. So yeah, that's definitely one up there for me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
love that. Well, this has been fascinating, Maria. Thank you so much for coming on. Tell us where people can find out more about you, maybe connect with you, read your Substack, all of that.
I'm sort of a little bit everywhere. I'm trying to be. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, and I actually quite love the community on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's definitely one spot. And my Substack playing, I'm there regularly as well. And I also love the community of Substacks. I love to meet people there as well. I'm also on Instagram. Just same name. I think those three places are probably my main ones.
Your main play places?
Hang out, hang out spots, play places, yeah. But no,
fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, well, we'll put a
Great.
link in the show notes to all of that and, your Substack and LinkedIn and things. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was such a great chat and I think quite inspiring. I think we all feel we're going to go out and find a bit of joy in our lives and play a bit more, I think.
More curiosity and
exactly.
for sure.
Thank you so much for having me. That's been, it's been very inspiring as well, chatting about all this.
Yeah,
Oh,
so much
great.
fun. So that brings us to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So we're out there listening. Don't forget to check the show notes and there'll be a transcript of this episode as well. And we'll see everyone next week.
We will. See you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.